12. That should be sorted now. Yeah, we're live. All right. So that should be it. Let me know. We're good in here. On the Facebooks, let me know as well. Then we're gonna get into our history class today. Franco, YouTube is on. So yeah. So we're gonna get into it. So first and the foremost, let's give Officer Dungabar a hand, for the lecture. Yeah, for the lecture on the weekend. He done an excellent job on European supremacy has destroyed black people. That was an excellent lecture, man. You know what I mean? So it's online if you want to watch it again. It's on Facebook and on YouTube also as well. So, do make sure that, you do watch that. A lot of information, a lot of tangible, valid information. You know what I mean? Not no fake history or things like that. So, that was a powerful that was a powerful lecture right there. So in the UK, lecture wise for this year, we're done, you know what I mean? Like we just done the lectures just to, handle the winter side of things. So next year, who knows what we'll teach, who knows what lectures we would have, but most definitely lectures in the UK school have been excellent. Everyone showed up. Officer Karafia, he showed up. Officer Shamgar in Dungabar's lecture, he showed up. And every officer done an excellent job for these lectures for this year. So, Officer Dungabar, give yourself a hand for the lecture on the weekend. So just a few announcements, with the I.S.U.P.K, we teach that according to history and the Bible, that the black man is the real Jew. The black man that was sold into the Western hemisphere, he is the real Jew, and he is not African. Many times, people say, your own people sold your own. And, that's meant to stop an argument right there. But it doesn't, because that is a lie. Africans sold the Israelites in slavery. Africans rounded up Israelites that were living in the west coast of Africa. And that's something your oppressor would rather you not know. He would rather you believe that you're African and Africans sold you so that you can't complain when you talk about what he did. And that's why they'll rather you believe that. They'll rather you not knowing that you're an Israelite so that you can believe you're an African and believe, you're nothing, instead of the earth belonging to you, instead of the kingdom of heaven being for you. So that's why, these things do matter. So in the UK, we do classes 3 times a week. So today you got the Monday history class, then you got the Wednesday law class, then you got the Thursday scripture breakdown class. All of these classes are done at the same school, 394 Lodge Road, postcode B18 5PW. So, all these classes are done at the same school, postcode B18 5PW, and all at the same time, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock. So, you don't want to miss it. Officer Karafi does the Monday, Officer Dungabar does the Wednesday, and myself, Officer Parasha, I do the Thursday. So you don't want to miss that. So with that being said, today's history class is going to be a lecture that I've done about 3 years ago. It's still relevant, and still the information is still valid even till this day. So, we're going to get into it. So the lecture is on the allegations of King James. So for those online, what kind of allegations have you heard about King James? I'll give everyone a minute to answer. Like, what things have you heard about, King James? You know, I'll give you some examples in a moment that I experienced myself with regarding King James. That's right, on the YouTube Mad Bunyamyan, that he was white and he was gay. And, you know, growing up, you know, coming from a Rasta background, you couldn't even mention the name of King James. I'm like, fire on King James. He was gay, yo. You know what I mean? He slept with his mother and all kind of things which were not true. You know, again, like, you know, not trying to diss black people, you know, of course, me being black and us being the Israelites, a lot of us don't research. Someone who we look up to says one thing and we're like, yes, he is right. That is the facts. And it's not the facts. So today we're going to disprove everything that is said about King James. So let's get to the first one. So now, first off, you know, people tell you that King James was a white man. And as you can see by these images here, if you was to drive into Scotland, into a city called Edinburgh, where his house was, you know, you will see these images right here. And these images let you know that he is not white. The one on the right, the image of King James of the Scots at the New College Library, Edinburgh, UK. So meaning it's you can find it, and likewise, even the image on the left found in the same university or the college, as the better way to say. So looking at these images, you don't get a white man out of this, especially the one on the left. He's got the afro, man. You know what I mean? I ain't seen a white man with an afro yet. So, you know, already people saying that King James is white, then how do you answer this? A picture speaks what? 1,000 words. You know what I mean? And there's also history too that says King James was black. And in a lecture I done before this one, I have more in-depth history showing you that he was black, his dad was black, granddad was black, and that he comes from a line of black men. You know what I mean? So let's crack on. So in today's lecture, we are going to discuss the allegations on King James and the Bible. So, you know, we're going to discuss it and let's see what they say is true. Let's see what the Rastafarian community says. Let's see what the Egyptology community says. Let's examine what all of these communities say about King James. You know what I mean? So we're going to do that. So already we disproved that King James was not white with the images that you can find, you know what I mean, which do have a source, and clearly he's black in those two images. Let's break him down. Is King James white? Is King James a homosexual? Did he do witchcraft? Did King James write the Bible? And is the King James translation credible? So, you know, we're going to examine these things. So why do these things even matter? Reason being is, in the black community, these are always the common slanders people say about King James and on the Bible with no absolute evidence. So now let's make this clear, man. Just because you go on YouTube and on Facebook, that is not evidence. YouTube videos are not evidence. Facebook memes are not evidence. You know what I mean? What is evidence? Valid history, eyewitness accounts, you know what I mean? Written documents, those things are evidence, but YouTube and Facebook does not count as evidence, man. And it's sad when people do this, man. They go, King James was a homosexual. Says who? Now, you know, look, man, do you know what you need to do? On YouTube, type in King James was gay. Yeah? Like, that's not evidence. On YouTube, you know, an editor can make any video. That doesn't mean nothing. That is not evidence. YouTube is not evidence. What is evidence? History, eyewitness accounts. You know what I mean? Them things is what make up evidence. You know what I mean? So all these arguments are based on fallacies. So a question, before I go to the next slide, does anyone know what a fallacy is? A fallacy. Let's see who can answer that online. I'll give you a minute. All right, going once, going twice. All right, so a fallacy. Let's get the next slide. So a fallacy is is the use of an invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning, meaning in a debate you're doing something that isn't right. And when it comes to King James and the Bible, when a lot of people debate about it, they're using fallacies, meaning reasonings that ain't right, meaning there's no evidence, there ain't anything to support what they say, and that is a fallacy. So I know some of you see this image right here. Those three men, they are three famous Greek philosophers. Well, of course, this is not how they looked. This is just a depiction of them. You know, you got Sir Socrates, one's called Plato, and the other one, I forget his name. But these three men, you know, they like to debate, they like to, you know, philosophize, and they came up with what we call a fallacy, meaning in a debate or an argument that you have, you're using a reasoning which ain't right. And why is this relevant? Because when people talk about King James, there's lots of fallacies being used, meaning things that in an argument is not right to even make that point. That point doesn't even make no sense. So let me break down what a fallacy means from the top. A fallacy is the use of a invalid or otherwise faulty reasoning or wrong moves in the construction of an argument. A fallacious argument may be deceptive by appearing to be better than it really is. So meaning someone's trying to use something and they make it seem like it's better than it really is. I'll give you an example. Some people say this: what about if a baby was born gay? So why didn't God kill the woman? Why didn't God take the life of the baby before it became an adult and done something gay? Now, on face value, that seems deep. It seems like, wow, you know, that's a good point. Why didn't God do that? But that's a fallacy. That's faulty reasoning. God takes your life for what you do. So regardless of what he knew what you was going to do, you have to do it. Like, it's like in anything, you can only get judged for what you do. You can't get locked up for what I thought you was going to do. I can't lock you up because I thought you was going to take someone's life. I got to lock you up when you take someone's life. And that is a fallacy right there. You know what I mean? It's someone that they're using an argument which ain't valid. They're using an argument which doesn't make no sense. What's another one? You know what I mean? Like many people that hate, you know, the word of God. Another fallacy they like to use. So if God knows everything, why did God make it happen? Again, the same thing. You get judged for what you do. Yes, God knows, but you need to do it so that you can get judged. You can't get locked up for what I thought you was gonna do. You get locked up for what you did. And likewise, those things are fallacies right there. It's an argument that doesn't make sense. And with now, when you think and use your brain, they don't have a point. They don't have a leg to stand on. So let's get into some fallacies that people use on King James. So now the main fallacies people like to use. So in your own time, you can look up loads of them, but it's going to get into main ones that people like to use. So one is called the ad hominem, meaning when the people think of arguments, often their first thought is of shouting matches riddled with personal attacks. So ad hominem, meaning someone just tries to shout at you, someone tries to overtalk you, someone tries to just get loud. That is a fallacy in itself. If I'm so wrong, then why don't you debate me in the information? Why are you trying to shout over me? Why are you trying to, you know what I mean, disprove? You know what I mean? Why are you trying to just shout over me instead of going through the evidence that I present? So that's the ad hominem one there. The one on the right, appeal to ignorance, or in the Greek, augmentinum ad ignorantium. So that's how you would say in the Greek. Anytime ignorance is used as a major premise in support of an argument, so meaning you use ignorance to win an argument. So I'll give you an example. Imagine no one knows the information I have. You appeal to them like, does that make sense? And everyone's like, no, that is appealing to ignorance. And you know what I'm saying. I can back it up with the evidence, but you appeal to ignorance. So how does this work regarding King James? King James, a white homosexual. Come on, it makes sense. Look at him, man. Look what he's wearing, and you appeal to the ignorance of people that don't know any better. We got the circular argument. When a person's argument is just repeating what they already assumed beforehand, it's not arriving to a new conclusion. We call this circular arguments, meaning people go around in circles. They bring one point, you answer it. They bring it up again, you answer it again. Like, I just said that. Yeah, but what about this? That is a fallacy, meaning they know they're wrong, but they want to be right. So what do? They bring the argument around again. You show them the wrong. They bring it up again. You show them, look, but you said that already. I've answered it. Yeah, but I just don't see that. That's circular argument. Then you got the false dilemma or false dichotomy. A fallacy has a few other names: black and white fallacy, false dictamony, others. The line of reasoning fails by the limiting the options. So meaning when they present something to you, they try to also give you the answer at the same time. Like with the Bible, many people go, so if God knew this, then that must mean this. That's a false dictamony, meaning you're trying to give me the answer you want me to have when there's other options. You're just like, well, that means that. No, it doesn't. You know what I mean? But they try to give you this can only mean this, and that's a fallacy. And you notice when it comes to King James, and there's many other things too, people use these fallacies right here. So if King James's right-hand man had a hidden way to get to his bed, he's gay. That's a false dictamony. And there's other options, which we're going to break down in this lecture, of course. Let me get there. So now let's get into just a few more fallacies that relate to what what we're getting into. This one's called hasty generalization are statements without sufficient evidence to support them. And this is what you realize many people, they're very hasty to generalize something. They go, that means that you're hasty. How about you let me break it down? How about you let me, show you the evidence, but the hasty, no, I've seen enough. What I get from that evidence means this. But well, how about you got some of my evidence? How about you get all of it? Then make up your mind. But they're hasty. Why? Because they don't want the truth. Let's get the other one, red herring, or in the Greek, ignoratio elenchi. A red herring is a distraction from the argument. And when it comes to King James, the red herring is very key, man. Where people they try to distract people from the argument. Come on, man. I got a brain in my head. That don't make sense. You know what I mean? It's logical that he was gay, man. He was in homosexual England, man. You know what I mean? We know how they were, man. Them man, they were busting. Come on, man. That's a red herring, meaning you just try to side shift things instead of dealing with the evidence. Distraction from the argument when some sentiment that seems to be relevant but isn't really on topic. So in your own time, you can read more about them. But these are things you see even till this day when it comes to King James. No one likes to deal with the facts and the evidence. People use red herrings. Is a plug in a charger? All right, so now let's get into King James with the evidence, with the proof, not no fallacies, not, you know what I mean, not nothing wrong. We're gonna get into it. There's another lead, should be another one. It's white as well. So now let's get into some stuff right now, man. So we've done many lectures on the Jews being black. King James, he was an Israelite. So let's get into this book. This is a book called When Scotland Was Jewish. So you know what I mean? You can get this book. This is from the 21st page. So now in the same book, this is from the 21st page. You know what I mean? 1 second. All right. So I know probably for you at home, that's a bit thin to read, but I can read it from here. So in the book, this is a section, The Forgotten Monarchy of Scotland. So now for those of you that haven't read this book, of course, the real Stewart family, they were black. And of course, once, King James was beheaded and his son, of course, with the oppressor, he took the name. So now they asked this man who isn't really from King James's bloodline, but, he believes he is. So they ask him about the James family. And even he has to admit something about the real line of the Stewart family. So it goes, the Stewart family maternalized in France was descended from the tribe of Judah. So he knew that really King James was a Jew. You know what I mean? Now, in regular secular history, they don't even want you to know that King James and his family were Jews. You know what I mean? They just want you to believe that he was just of some, damn the white Anglo-Saxon, Viking, Nordic race. You know what I mean? They'll rather you accept that when real historians know King James was a Jew. You know what I mean? And his family was of Davidic ancestry. And they didn't know that means King David from the Bible, man. Now, you know what I mean? We showed you in the first slide, King James being black. So you mean, and we got other books too about real Jews being black, which I believe in this lecture, which is in this lecture also as well. You know what I mean? So let's crack on. So now this is out of the book. Nature knows no color lines. You know what I mean? So this is the pages 122 and the 130th page. So now let's read something that many oppressors of European history don't want you to know. So this is page 122 on the top. Most of the Negro strain in Northern Europe and Russia was taken in by the Jews who, in spite of religious prejudice against them, intermarried with Christians, as Maurice Fishberg in his comprehensive study. So, meaning the black people that lived in like Europe, you know what I mean, they were Jews, and that black strain came with Jews. So even historians know if you look at any European art and you see a black man there, that is a Jew. It wasn't no African. They know that it was the Jews that brought the black strain into Europe in the Dark Ages.
What do you mean straight up black people mixed race? What do you mean?
Oh, strain. So mean, okay, all throughout like Asian art, you will see black people there, and those people are Jews. And with that strain, so even in a lot of Dark Ages, like in a lot of Dark Ages arts, you see people that are black like us. I'm just using that as a term, and you see people so-called mixed race, and even they know that Negro strain that they got, that came from Jews who mixed with them, intermarried with them also as well, if it makes sense. All right, so let's read the other one on the 130th page. The Eastern Jews who settled in Austria, Poland, and Russia were Negroid. So even they know that Jews were black. And when we came to those lands, we were still black in those lands. So likewise, King James, remember, he was a Jew. We're reading about the Jews that even lived in that part of the hemisphere. And what color were they? They were black. You know what I mean? So now, again, I got the website on top. This is called the House of Names. So meaning any coats of arms, it tells you where it originates from and the people as well. So, you know, you can get this on the House of Names. And this is the Kopp family right here. So the Kopp is a German nation, which is derived from the Hebrews. And looking at coats of arms, you see a black man right there with a wreath around his head or a crown upon his head. And so now it lets you know they lived in Germany and they were also Hebrews. Then it goes Hebrews, which means Jacob, which means to supplant. So now they know that this family, which was a rich family in Germany, you know what I mean? These were Israelites here. These were Jews that you know what I mean, that lived in that region and they were black. So King James being a black Jew is not far-fetched. It's not a myth. It's lucky just checking my Facebook. All right, it's checking. All right, no sweat. Just checking everyone online. So now this is another book. You know, you can see this is the book called Asian and Modern Britons, Volume 1. Now, this book is written by a Irishman, David McRitchie. So now we're going to show you that King James is a Jew. So like we have shown you that King James is a Jew, but now we're going to show you that his parents and his family going way back, was black also. So you know, this is another book right here. This is it. All right, this is a bit fine to read, so let's get into it. All right. You can't see online. You probably can. If you can, your eyes are very good. But all right, let's get into it. All right. This is in page 206. The highlight that has the darker part or the black part under it. Goldcrofts remarks that he said to have been a black and swarthy, an expression somewhat stronger than that used by Arba. The dusky skin earned for him, say the historians, the name the black, the ugliest. So now some of you may not understand that. So now King James's granddad, a name he got was the black, the ugliest. Now this author Godscroft is letting you know that he didn't get that name, the Black Douglas, because he was bad, he was mean. He got it because he was black. He got that name, the Black Douglas, simply because he was black. You know what I mean? So usually when you tell someone, why was King James's granddad called the Black Douglas, what did they say? He was bad. He wore black garments. You hear so many things instead of someone saying, because he was a black man. And in this book, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, it says it, titled The Black Douglas. Let me get some more. We see this by looking at all the clans without even taking their followers. For not only was the good Sir James known as the Black, the ugliest, but so also was his grandson, a son of Archibald. So apparently was the eighth Earl of that line. So meaning in the James family, many of them had names that in one form or another meant black. So not even just King James's granddad, his grandson, and another one called Earl the Eighth. And why in their name did it always have black? Because they were black people. You know, it's not like now where, you know, your last name is just who used to own you back in the 1600s. Any surname you had, you got it from either something you did or how you looked. So many people throughout history that had black, it wasn't because they were bad people. It simply was because their skin was black. Get some more. All right. This is the next page. Wherever you encounter the Black Douglas in history or tradition, you find that he is a black man. So even they know that King James's granddad was a black man, and this Irishman. Let me go back to in the book, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, by Dave McRitchie, a white Irishman. He's saying that, yeah, in history, really, Black Douglas meant he was a black man. It has nothing to do with him being mean, him being bad, him being aggressive. It's simply he got that name because he was a black man. So let's get the next page. All right, the last chief of the last chief of the black division of the Douglas main stem of the Douglases was James the Ninth Earl. He succeeded his elder brother in 1452. So now why am I going here? Because this is how, this is King James's family right here. And we know that he comes from a line of black men. Let me get the point. All right. So Scotland should be ruled by Ormond Sede Uwats, or by the Moorish Douglases. And what family does King James originate from? The Douglas family. And what does the word or even mean? It means black. More means black. So even they knew that the Douglas family, before they got the name the James family, they were black. This is the next page, just the other highlighted part. The Douglases themselves were a gang of black Moravian Moors or J Ipses, certainly on an extensive scale. So all throughout history, people knew that the Douglas family, which later on became the James family, they were a clan of black men, man, black people. So anyone that tells you anything different, they clearly don't know history. They clearly don't know the history they believe they have, man. You know what I mean? So let's get on with some more. This is a book called The Negro Rulers of the Scottish and British Isles by Dr. John L. Johnson. Now, a little bit of a background on this book. This book here, it got banned in the UK. Many people thought the book was racist. The book was, just going against the grain and things like that. So this book in the UK was banned. So if you want to buy this book, you gotta go on his website and buy the book off him directly. So if you're in the UK, you'd have to send it from America, and it has his phone number, and you can also contact him. And I'm not being rude to him; he can talk a lot. So you ring him, and you can talk about it all day long. You know what I mean? And he's shocked when people even know this information. So Dr. John L. Johnson. So Dr. John L. Johnson, he also knew that your last name was based on your appearance or the work that you did, a trade. Let's get it. So now this is the book right here. So now at the back of the book, you'll find the Scottish vocabulary, and it's giving you the etymology of a lot of Scottish words which mean black men. So let me fly through some. You got Doug Black, Dougal Black, or a black stranger, Douglas Black. You got Dove Black. You got Doe Black, Dowie Black, Doan Black, Down Black, Duna Black, Duban Black. Look at all these words, man. Dublin, Dub, meaning black. Dudley, black. Oh. Yeah, 1 second. Shalom said, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Barake, also. Concert. I've got the sister and Nakapai here. Oh, kind of one concert. Kind of one concert. Kind of one concert. Concert. Understood. Concert. Okay, so you see the vocabulary right here. So it's letting you know that a lot of Scottish words even indicate someone who is black. So let's look at some of these. You got Doug, which means black. Doug Hall, a son of a black stranger. Douglas, black. Dove or Dove, a black. Doyle, black, a stranger. Derived from the word Dogol. We got Dow, which in the brackets you see dove, and that means Niger, and that means black also as well. You got Dub on, the little black one, and there are plenty of words here that clearly are showing you that even in the Scottish language, so many words are referring to a black man. So when people say King James was not black, we've showed you history. And also, as you see, even in the Scottish language, so many words indicate a black man or a black son, a black stranger. You mean so many things that are letting you know that this meant someone who was black. It's not just a symbolic word. These words mean either black stranger, black man, or whatever the case may be. And let's get some more. Get on the second part. Picked, a warlike, dark-skinned Scotsman. We got McDowell, son of a black stranger. McDonald, a son of a black Scotsman. So, if you get this book in your own time, you can break it down. But it's clear that black people was evidently in Scotland, and we went through the history where King James was black, and not also just being black, but also being a Jew as well. Let's get the next slide. So, in the same book, this is a Scottish poem where they are distinguishing between the black and the white Scots, letting you understand that Scotland is very aware that they had black people there in the ancient times. So let's read it. Black Scots and red Scots and black. They dealt with the red Scots and dealt we the blacks. The red Scots is angry among the sons, O mem. He'll pay you a he'll pay you a bawbee and steal it back again. So for those of you that may not know what that means, meaning they're saying the Red Scots are a thief, so they'll buy something off you, then they will take it back. The next paragraph: Black Scots and red Scots and black. I hae dealt we the red Scots and dealt we the blacks. The black Scots is friendly, a brethren. He'll pay you a bawbee and sedil back two or trois. So meaning they're saying the black Scots, we are thieves. Basically meaning we'll buy something off you and then we'll take it back and want more. You know, And it's funny because our oppressor, he thinks that till this day, man, thinks we're nothing but thieves and robbers and good for nothing. And in this Scottish literature right here, that's what they thought also as well. Ginger Scott, oh Scott, the worst shade, oh Scott, for he'll pay you no a thing and take what you've got. So saying that with the ginger Scots, which would be known as the European Scotsman of today, he's a thief as well. Black Scots, red Scots, short Scots, and Lang, ginger Scots, and bold Scots. I doubt with the gang by Henry Lawson, 1867 to they died in 1922, written in I believe it's 1908. So yeah, so you know what I mean. So now they are very aware of Scottish history that black people were there also as well. Let's get the next slide. So now some people talk about the Anglo-Saxons. Now we don't entertain folklore. Some people say Anglo-Saxons means sons of Jacob. There's no evidence of that. But within Anglo-Saxon history, they do know that Anglo-Saxons said they came from the line of Shem, and said that they traced their genealogy back to Shem and on back to Adam. So Anglo-Saxons were a Shemitic race. You know what I mean? So they do know that about the Anglo-Saxons. So in your own time, there's a book called The Origins of the Saxons by Raymond F. McNair. So you can get that. And one of the famous Anglo-Saxon kings, Alfred the Great, who was himself a Saxon, it says son of Isaac. Don't entertain that. There's not evidence to support that. You know what I mean? But trace his genealogy right back to Shem or Sem or Shem and on back to Adam. So, again, you can even read church historians of England regarding Alfred the Great, who was a famous Anglo-Saxon king. And it says it also in there that he himself said, let me get it. Alfred, king of the Anglo-Saxons, was born in the year of the Lord's incarnation, 849. King Alfred was the son of Gaeta. The Gaeta was the son of Heremod, the son of Shem. So even Alfred the Great, he knew who he descended from, and he went all the way back to Shem. And you find this in the church historians of England, the Annals of Exploits of Alfred the Great, volume 11, page 443 to page 144. So you know what I mean? The history is there. Then let's read the last section. So the Anglo-Saxons may well have had records of their ancestry of their kings, beginning with Scaife and calling Scaife the son of Noah, born in the ark, or even identifying him with the patriarch Shem. And in the brackets, where do you get this from? Haith, the conquest of Britain by the Saxons, chapter 3, page 115. So there's valid information letting you know that the Anglo-Saxons came from Shem. Let's get the next one. So this is another book which is called The Origin of the Anglo-Saxon Race, written by Sir Thomas William Shaw. So now, in this book, this guy, he claims to be, of the Anglo-Saxon race. So let's see what this man has in this book. All right. So this is the top page. Brunsford is another suggestive name. Brunman mentioned as a personal name in the Anglo-Saxon record of the 11th century, and examples of the name Brunin are somewhat numerous in documents of the same period. At the same present time, old place names of which the word brawn forms, such as Brunswick, are the common in Germany. The custom of calling people by Ola names from their appearance. So, meaning you will call someone by their appearance. And what does Brunswick in the German or Germanic language even mean? It means black. And many Anglo-Saxons had that name, Brunswick. And this author is letting you know that they got this name by their appearance, not because they was bad, not because they was angry. They got this name black and brown simply by their appearance. So it is probable that the name Brunswick was derived from the brown complexion of its original inhabitants. So there's so many Anglo-Saxons that came from Germany. A common name among them was Brunswick, and it's saying they got it for their complexion. So, even that alone, let's get some more. All right. The consideration of the probable origin of the great proportions of brunettes in two of the South Midland countries of England lead us to that of the color names as the surnames and place names, which may probably been derived from their original settlers. For example, there is the common name Brown. This has been derived from the Anglo-Saxon Brun. So now it's saying in England today, many people have the surname Brown, but this came from the Anglo-Saxon Brun, signifying brown. It is not reasonable to doubt that when our forefathers called a man Brun or Brown, they gave him this name as a descriptive of his brown complexion. There, so even in Anglo-Saxon surnames, they're letting you know they got these names for their complexion. Likewise with the Douglas family, the Black Douglas. Why did he get this name? Because he was a black man. So many times in ancient history, many people that had the surname Black or an alias name of Black was simply because of their complexion of their skin. So let's get the next slide. All right, so within our next slide, we're going to get into the history of whitewashing. So online, does anyone know what whitewashing means? I'll give you a minute to answer. Does anyone know what whitewashing means? All right, for time's sake, I will have to answer it. Whitewashing is when there is a icon or a painting, and the reason why it's called whitewashing is because on that same image, the individual or the group may be black and it is whitewashed, meaning now they look more European. So on these paintings here, you'll see the before and the after. And you look, if you look on the image on the top, before with the Messiah, Jesus Christ, he's looking very dark skinned and his disciples around him. Then now, if you look on the after, they don't look as dark skinned, they don't look as black, which makes it a whitewashing. Then on the image below, before, with Jesus Christ and the disciples, they're looking mighty dark, they're looking black. Then after whitewashing takes place, now they're looking European. So that's what whitewashing is right there. So now, many people may ask you this right here. Why is it then, if King James was black, Henry the Eighth was black, then why is it we don't see so much of it? And this is from the telegraph.co.uk. This is an article right here. So now Thomas Cromwell was the Islamic State of his day. Islamic State of his day. Forget the wolf hall. This pathological, ambitious ruffian sent hundreds to the blocks and destroyed England's religious and artistic heritage. So now keep this in mind. Once the Dark Ages was at its end, came in the Renaissance. And what does the word Renaissance even mean? It means rebirth, meaning the oppressor, he was rebirthed, where he ruled, where he was starting to get back his seat, his dominion. Because in the Dark Ages, he was ruling black Jews, and this man destroyed many of England's religious and artistic heritage. You know what I mean? So that's something people need to look into. Why in England you don't see so much of it. Next slide. So let's get into it right here, man. So on my left of Jesus Christ, this is a original painting. This is in a book called The Russian Icons. And you'll find it here where Jesus Christ, look at him. You see his afro, dark skin. He's a black man. You know what I mean? Then now, with the picture in the middle, that man is a Greek Orthodox painter. And if you look behind him, there's a black image of the Messiah right there as well. And then once it's done with what we call today whitewashing, you see the image on the right. So that's how, that's how whitewashing took place. So now let's go back to the book, Nature Knows No Color Lines by J.A. Rogers. Berm is checking the YouTube. All right. So in this book, you will see the coats of arms. And what are coats of arms? It's basically your family's name. So it's like instead of you writing down your signature, people see that coats of arms and go, that's that family. So that imagery lets you know the family that you are from and it has your name on it. And as you see in this book, from page 83 to 107, you'll notice many coats of arms, England, Glastonbury, the Midlands, even that, where black people ruled, all these coats of arms. Skip some more. Negroes in coats of arms. And you see them right here. And also, I know what someone's thinking. J.A. Rogers, he sketched that in this book. You do know J.A. Rogers got this from another book, and you can buy it, and I have it. It's called the Fairbairns Coats of Arms. And these are in it. These are in it. So he didn't just sketch them and they don't exist. You know, you can buy it. It's called the Fairbairns Coats of Arms. Just to let you know. There you go. And as you read these are Scotland, Wales, Glastonbury, Sussex, you know, many places that are famous in England. Black people ruled and their coats of arms show that too. So even Saint George, the dragon slayer, as well. You know, in the book, The Art of Usher, the image on the left is taken out of it, and George, the dragon slayer, black man, afro. Now a modern depiction of him. Look at him. You know, not looking as negroid as some people would like to say it. Now it's looking very European looking, but in the original, he's a black man with an afro. Then also, um, because of the lecture and the screen, you may not be able to see, but in the house on the right, on the bottom right, if you look in that house, there's also two black people. It's a king and his wife, and they're also black as well. You know what I mean? So now let's get into King James and the Bible. So now, what do many people like to say? King James wrote the Bible. And why do they think this? They think this from a bad misunderstanding of a word. So let's get into it. Many people say King James, he's the author of the Bible, and they don't understand author and authorizer ain't the same word. An author is a writer of a book, article, or document. Let's read what authorizer means. Authorizer, authority who authorizes people or actions, the agents reporting back to their authorizer. Author and authorizer ain't the same thing. An author is someone who writes it. An authorizer is someone who gives people the permission or the action to write something, or in this case, to translate something. So when people go, King James wrote the Bible, I'm reading a King James authorized Bible, they don't understand what authorizer means. Author and authorizer are two different words. They don't mean the same thing. Some people go, you're reading a King James authorized Bible. He wrote it. They just don't know what authorized means. That's their problem. It's not yours. So King James is not the author of the Bible. He authorized the translation of the Bible, if everyone understands that. So let me see if you can get these. So this is out of another book called A Visual History of the King James Bible. So let me get it. All right, let me get it. trying to see from where we am. All right, I'll start from the bottom left and up. The actions of one man in this critical moment of time would reshape the language of the Christian faith and initiate a new Bible translation that would come to be known as England's greatest literal achievement. So now, what it's saying, the actions of one man. As we read on, we're going to explain what this brave one man did. So now we're going to read it on the writing above above the headline, why the authorized translation. A stubborn and uninhibited Puritan. So for those of you that don't know, these were a sect of Christians that believe that you don't have sex, you just wash your and just what I mean, like they were very extreme. So that's what Puritans were. They were people that believe you don't ever have sex. You just read the Bible all day. So this man rose to his feet to be recognized. He knew full well the king's reprimand could fall like a stroke of a sword on such a act. So meaning, whenever King James used to have his debates, you couldn't just stand up and say, listen, I want to say this. But this man, in a bold act, this is what he did. May your majesty be pleased. The room went deadly silent, and John spoke. May your majesty be pleased. May a new translation be made that will answer to the intent of the original, rather than allowing for the corruption of Henry VIII and Edward VI. So this man saying, why don't we why is it that we can't have a book that is just a translation of the words, not someone trying to corrupt the word, not someone trying to break it down to meet their agenda? But why can't we have a translation of the Bible that just says what it says? Now the last page. I would that England had one uniform translation, but I have never yet seen a Bible well translated in England, and I think that the Geneva is the worst of all. So the Geneva Bible, that is one. Correct me if I'm mistaken. William Tinsdale translated that, and it is really bad. So he's saying, like, look what we're being forced to read. How about we get one that it's very good. It's saying what it's saying, doesn't have no opinions, just a clear translation of the Bible. Worst of all, had a pin drop to the floor. All that was present in the Hampton Court Palace Hall that day heard it. So everyone's quiet. Like, this guy rose to his feet and said this to the king. You know what I mean? So let's read on. The new translation must not be burdened with marginal notes. that are that are like marginal notes that are partial lies and against the kingship, but rather must spread the idea of divine rule by monarchs. So he's saying, don't do a translation that has an agenda. Just do one that is saying what it's saying. So the king had thrown down the gauntlet. He had given commission a new translation of the Bible. So there you go. So that's how it happened, even in history. And did it say he wrote the Bible? He said he commissioned it, man. So now let's look at types of Bible translations. So now you'll notice when it comes to the Bibles, you have word for word. So what is word for word meaning? When it's translated, it's word for word. Then you got thought for thought, meaning what they think it's saying, they'll translate it in that thought. Then you got the paraphrase, meaning they read it in the Hebrew or the Greek and go, basically that means that, and then they'll translate that into another language. So the King James translation of the Bible is a word for word, meaning that is a Bible that we should be reading. The King James Bible is a word for word translation, which is heavy. It's not thought for thought. You know, if you're reading a Bible that is thought for thoughts, that's not good. Meaning a translator, he thought that's what it means and he translated that. That's not good. And if you're reading a Bible that is paraphrased, forget about it. Meaning they just read it in its original language and just summed up what they thought it meant. So again, the King James Bible is a word for word, and that's why we should be reading that translation of the Bible, word for word, thought for thought. That's no good, and to paraphrase, forget about it. That's not good at all. So the King James translation fits in the category of word for word. Let's go on. So now in the Bible, many people read Acts 11 and 26. And it's very key to read this. Why? Because the disciples were here in this place, which we are about to read about. So let's get it. Let's get Acts 11 and 26. Just gonna check the YouTube as well, see if I have anything online. So let's get Acts 11 and 26. And when we had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. So now this is where the disciples went to, a place called Antioch. And as you see on the slide, we have it on the map. So it's in between Turkey and Syria. So that is where Antioch would be today. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. So this place is very key. And historically, that's a wall where allegedly, I'm not saying it's true, where, you know, with the where they would be in Antioch, you know, they've preserved it. I'm not backing it. I'm not saying it is true, but Antioch is very key. So historically, the disciples taught here. Let's get the next slide. And why is this key? Because in Antioch, you find what is called the Tectus Receptus, or in Latin, receive text. That's why it's called Textus, which is text. Receptus, Latin received, is given the name to the succession of printed Greek texts of the New Testament. So this is where the disciples were, and the disciples, why is it called the Tectus Receptus? Because this is the text that they received from the disciples: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. That's why it's called the received text. Received from who? The disciples. So now, when you read the Bible, which we read, which is the King James one, Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, Corinthians, Galatians, Revelations, he got the translation from the Textus Receptus, which is a valid backing. So now, the Bible that we read, it has very valid history, and anything they used was valid. Now, many of the Bibles people read today, what they use for, Leviticus, Numbers, Mark, Matthew, Luke, it's not valid. While as this, the Tectus Receptus is valid, and the disciples taught in Antioch, and the Tectus Receptus was found in Antioch. It's very valid. Greek manuscripts may apply to other ancient texts in other languages, traditionally copied and passed down by scribes. So the second part goes into also other people that use the Tectus Receptus as well. So William Insdale did, King James did, the Spanish Reina Valera translation. So King James isn't the only one, but why did many people use the Tectus Receptus? Because it's valid. You know that you're using valid Bible text to translate from. Let's get the next slide. So now this is another book called Defending the King James Bible. It's a good book, and I'm just gonna ad lib on top of that. I know the book is defending it, so some people online will think, well, the book's defending the King James Bible. Like, why would it say anything bad? The author of this book, is not just trying to just give you a one-sided point. In the book, he gives you lots of angles, lots of, debates, and also arguments that also people have as well. You know what I mean? So let me read that. So from page 38, we believe the King James is based on the New Testament text. We believe this. The first is that the Tectus Receptus that underlines the King James Bible was accepted. Secondly, the Tectus Receptus that underlines the King James Bible is attested by the evidence. So meaning what King James used, it's been attested by evidence that this is a valid text. It wasn't something that no one can scrutinize and say, well, the Tectus Receptus, that's been tampered with. No one knows its history. The Tectus Receptus is a valid New Testament manuscript. Second. So I read the first point. The text which is used today in most colleges and universities, even and all the fundamental ones, is the Essel's Alman Greek. It's the New Testament 26. It has gone through 26 editions thus far. So meaning from what was in the Tectus Receptus, they've maintained it to this day. So if you think, something's wrong, you can read what they have now in the 26th edition and look at what is in the Tectus Receptus. All right, let's get the other one. And the top right, cognate languages are simply Seista languages related to her Hebrew, like Arabic, Syriac, Aramaic, Coptic, and so on. These are related like brother and sister. So why is this key? Because the men that translated it, they were very skilled in languages. Some people just think all they knew was just the, so-called Aramaic and the Latin and the Greek. These men knew all languages of the Middle East. So it's saying that many languages, they connect. Let me get it. All right. This particular word was used only once in the New Testament text or the Old Testament. So it's difficult to tell sometimes what these hapax, Leo, Gemina mean. They go to other sources to try and understand. The translator of the King James knew Arabic, Aramaic, Optic, and all the various cognate languages, could go to these languages to understand very clearly. So meaning they were so vast in languages that even among them, if there wasn't a word they could understand, then they would go to the related languages and go, maybe this is what this word means. So meaning the translators were very educated in language. So now let's get into another lie that people say about King James. All right. Before the King James 1611 was ever done, there was a book by King James called Demonology. Now, if you don't know anything about this book, you're going to believe that King James done witchcraft. You're going to believe that, King James done Obia. You're going to believe that King James took part in things like that. Now, here's the problem. Many people that talk about this book, Demonology, have never even read the book and don't even know what's the scenario, what's it about. So now, let's look at the title. Was King James into witchcraft? So this is the book Demonology, or Daemonology in the Latin, a form of a dialogue divided into 3 books by the Most High and the mighty Prince, and James, was written and published in 1597 by King James VI of Scotland, later known as James I of England, is a philosophical dissertation on contemporary necromancy and the historical relationships between various methods of divination used from ancient black magic. This includes a study of demonology and the methods demons use to other and trouble men, while touching on topics such as werewolves and vampires. It was political yet theological statement. Watch this. to educate a misinformed populace on the history. So is this book saying King James done witchcraft? Is it saying he done demonology? No. It was saying from what witches said to him, he writ it to make everyone have a better understanding on what witches believed. And you know what's funny? People that use this information didn't even read the epilogue. The epilogue is self-explanatory. Is it saying King James is doing this? No. It's saying he's trying to make England understand why witches believe these things. Never said he did it. Never said he believed in it. Of the history, practices, implications of sorcery, and the reasons for persecuting a witch. So meaning he even was against witches, but the book was made so that people just had some insight into why witches and wizards and people that believed in those things, you know what I mean, why they done it. Didn't say King James done witchcraft. But again, many of these people don't read, they don't look at the history for themselves. So now let's get into another one. Was King James gay? Growing up in a Rastafarian background, I heard it so much. That you hear it all the time. King James was gay. Come on, man. It's just logical, and no one never gives you any evidence. No one never shows you that King James was gay with any valid information, any valid history. So in the black community, we hear that King James is gay, and there is no proof at all. So now, again, at the start of the lecture, what did we get into? We got into fallacies, and again, hasty generalization. So hasty generalization are general statements without sufficient evidence to support them. And that's what hinders the black community. That's what hinders the Hispanic community, man. That's what hinders the native Indian community. Hasty generalization, meaning you make statements and you have no evidence. You assume King James is gay with no evidence. Then another fallacy, false dilemma. The fallacy has a few other names: black and white, either or fallacy, false dictimony, bifurcation fallacy. This line of reasoning fails by limiting of the options when there are, in fact, more options to pick from. So some of you may not know what that means. Meaning, it's called black and white. Meaning, if someone says, well, if this happens, this must mean this. That's the false dilemma fallacy right there. Meaning, you ask me something and you're saying, well, if that happened, that must mean this, when really there's more options. So now, with King James allegedly being gay, these are the fallacies people like to use in their argument right here. So now, first off, let's see if King James was with being gay. So now, this is a book called The True Law of the Free Monarchs and Basilican Duran. So for those of you that have never read this before, this is what King James wrote for his son. So, it's like a will. So when he dies, what his son should do, how England should be run. So now, this is page 117. James adopted a severe stance towards sodomy. What is that? Homosexuality, man. You know what I mean? So King James adopted a stance towards it, meaning he was against it using English law. His book of kingship, Basilican Duran, lists sodomy among those horrible crimes. So he said homosexuality or being gay is a horrible crime. He wasn't for homosexuality. So how can this man be a homosexual when he's writing his will for his son in the Basilicon Doran and he is against it, man? He's not co-signing it. He is against any form of homosexuality. You have some, all right? Horrible crime, which ye are bound in conscience ever to forgive. So meaning he told his son, if someone's homosexuality take their life, don't forgive them. You know, back in those times in England, homosexuality or being gay was punishable by death. And King James told his son, crimes like that, you can't forgive that, man. When someone is gay and you find out they die and you don't forgive them, let's crack on. So now this is from a website called the pinknews.com. So this website supports everything that's gay. So now many people read things like this and go, well, King James was gay, from websites like this and allegedly historians that claim they have evidence. 1 second. So now let's read on. Lost per portrait of King James gay over resurfaces after 400 years. So now people read things like this and go, you see, King James is gay. His lover, they found his image 400 years later. So now this is what they use. During the restoration of James' favorite royal residence, Apperthorpe, in 2008, a secret passage was even discovered that links the king's bed chamber to George's. Meanwhile, there are many textual records of the pair's affection for one another. And we're going to read those, and you're going to notice that had nothing to do with homosexuality. If you understand Old English writing, it speaks for itself. King James told his privy council of the Duke, you may be sure that I love the Earl of Buckingham more than anyone else and more than you who are assembled. So imagine that they're using this phrase to say King James was gay. His friend Earl of Buckingham, he loved him more than anyone else. So online, does that mean King James was gay? You know what I mean? Does that signify homosexuality on, you know what I mean, for you when you read that? Let's give you a minute. We're almost done. We got a few slides left also as well. All right, for time's sake. All right, so you can't get nothing gay out of that right there. So now to get another one, I wish to speak in mine own behalf and not to have it thought to be a defect, for Christ did the same, and therefore I cannot be blamed. Christ had his John, and I have my George, and there's nothing homosexual about that. Meaning, with Yahushua, among his disciples, he liked John the most. Were they in a homosexual relationship? No, they wasn't. And King James liked George out of all of the other friends he had. And that's all it means. And you do know people use that. I'm not making it up. It's not a myth. People use those phrases that King James said and go, he was gay. And reading it, you can't get nothing gay out of that. I would love to know how you find it. When you read the Bible, how Christ had John, was they homosexuals? No, they wasn't. Likewise, King James just loved George. It was his good friend. Like amongst everyone, you can have many friends, but you got the one friend that, you know what I mean, you're with him more than everyone else. You know what I mean? You to have a bond more than the other friends you have. So homosexuality doesn't fit into that at all. So now, what did it say in that article that we read? You know, King James, and they had basically his friend George had a way to get to his bedroom. Now, again, through history, we're going to find out what this means. So King James' secret passage was to escape if his life was in danger. King Solomon had his bodyguards close to his bed. Let's read it in the Bible. Songs of Solomon 3 and 7. Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. So what are we talking about? The bed of King Solomon right here. 80 valiant men are about it. So do you know what that means? Let me see online. What does that mean? King Solomon's bed, 80 valiant men are about it. So what does it mean by 80 valiant men are about it? All right, for time's sake. All right, what it means by 80 valiant men are about it, meaning around his bed, he has 60 men around his bed. Now, is that homosexuality? He's a king. They are his bodyguards. It's not strange to have a man protecting you as a king in your bedroom, or in the case of King James, a route for either him to escape to his bodyguard's bedroom or his bodyguard to come and save him by the passage to his bedroom. It's not gay. They are just protecting him. And likewise, in ancient time, King Solomon had 80. So a score is 20. So 2, 4, 60. He had 60 men around his bed while he went to bed, man. 60 men of the valiant of Israel. And it's going to explain that they are protecting him. They all hold swords, being experts in war. Every man have his sword upon his thigh because of the fear in the night. What fear? The fear of someone trying to assassinate the king, man. Imagine that. So King Solomon had all these men by his bed to protect him if someone tried to take his life by night. And his men, they had their swords upon their thigh to protect him from the fear in the night in case some ninja, some assassin tried to get him. Is that homosexuality? No, it isn't. So likewise with King James and his bodyguard, that's not homosexuality. He's just, he has that route to get to his bed so he can protect him. Or if someone tries to, kick down King James's door, he uses that way to get to his bodyguard's bedroom. And likewise in the Bible, it's a similar thing. So that's the lecture, and literally that finished just on time as well. So with that, we're gonna get to the announcements and the prayer as well. All right. Yeah. We are the ISUPK, started at a 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General YAHANNA. Rules for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After the 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will call each other. After the 6 months, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10 means 10th in the Hebrew Ma'ashra. 10% of any increase you receive from the Lord gives to the Treasury Department. Priest fund, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations is Purim in March, and we got the Passover on April the 8th. So if you're in the UK and you want to fly out, contact the school, in particular Officer Dungabar, and all Akim and Akwaf. Check the bulletin board in the hallway and check all ISUPK social media. So YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and everything we got. If anyone wants to become a trooper in the school, to start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headbands, and scarves, and with that I-Madium, we're going to rise and face the east. And we're going to say the Lord's Prayer. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Thaba'ah, Ratzaika, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawo, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathanlanawa, Lakam, Kau, Yowam, Wasalaknawa, Kabawafnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kabawafinawa, Wala'a, Thabaya Ayanawa, Banasayawan, Abol, Hawashainawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahathapara, La'aiwalamyam, Aman. And in the English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. So be it. So with that, we're going to give the salute. Men of Israel, Amadim Shabbat, Amadiam Barak, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatah. They're going to say Sa. So for the sisters, Amadiam, Men of Israel, Amadiam Shabbat, Amadiam Barak, Yahweh Shema Alatha Ba Shem Yahweh Shai, Yad Yamatah, class dismissed.